All women are different, but they are all women. This video is androcentric from a men's point of view and is presented as opinion, commentary, and debate. Expressing opinions is not violence. These are ideas to challenge, question, and argue in public, because classical liberalism relies on the First Amendment for its dialectic. If you are a feminist, then consider this. If patriarchy truly existed as claimed, feminism could not. And if all men are trash and women are equal to men, then what are we to conclude? Women will die for their children, men will die for their wives and children, and God chose to die for all mankind. Authority rolls up with responsibility. If this framing of facts offends you, click off to a cute cat video. Proceeding further will expose you to gamma bias and criticism directed at ideas, claims, institutions, not at any individual's virtue or dignity. Our method follows the 7 liberal arts. The trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. And the transcendentals, the good, true, and beautiful. If this framework is not for you, feel free to exit now. It's no disgrace. Women are wonderful. God bless America. Men are great. Men are punching bags. PMS Gets Women Off Murder, written by Conrad Riker. Available now, links in description. The West wasn't conquered, it was betrayed by its own sons. How cultural Marxism, feminized medicine, and male cowardice are killing the future. I once watched a man weep in a Starbucks because his girlfriend ghosted him after he paid for her wisdom teeth. He was 34, worked construction, saved his money, and genuinely believed love meant sacrifice. She was 26, studying gender studies, and dumped him over text with, "I need space to heal from patriarchal conditioning. Let me translate. You're useful until I find someone richer or more entertaining." This isn't heartbreak. This is spiritual vandalism, and it's not rare. It's the system working exactly as designed. The same system that funds breast cancer research 10 times more than prostate cancer. The same system that arrests fathers for contempt when they show up to see their kids, but lets women skip child support with a shrug. The same system that teaches boys they're toxic for wanting respect, while girls are taught to weaponize emotion like trained insurgents. Wake up, you are not broken. The world is, I don't care if you've been divorced, dumped, or diagnosed with low testosterone by a female doctor who won't look you in the eye. None of that disqualifies you. What disqualifies you is staying asleep. Believing the lie that you must apologize for being male, that colonialism is uniquely evil, but the Mongol invasion that slaughtered 40 million people is history, that your early death men die 6 years earlier than women in the US is just biology, not the result of a medical system that treats men like crash test dummies. You think you're free? You're in a cage made of guilt, propaganda, and female whims sold as equality, but the bars are paper. Tear them down. Study the real past, fund your own health, own your mistakes, all of them, and stop letting women blame their moods on hormones while you're expected to be a robot. A man who admits he was wrong without excuse is rarer than a virgin at a sorority house, and twice as powerful. When a woman says, "Let's move to Portland," and you say, "I'll sell my house and go," that's not weakness, that's motion loyalty. It's the same instinct that drove men to cross oceans for their families, not for work-life balance or self-care. And when she springs a last-minute concert on you, the answer isn't, "I have plans." The answer is, "Let me reschedule. I don't miss things with you." Because real love isn't managed, it's lived. And if you hesitate, if you excuse, if you need time to think, you're already gone. Not from her, but from yourself. From the man you were born to be. You want to know why the West is collapsing. Look at the sons we're raising, soft, scared, medicated, begging for approval from women who ditch them for a TikTok influencer. This essay isn't just truth, it's a weapon, and you're either picking it up or becoming part of the wreckage, the siege of the male spirit. How cultural Marxism colonizes the West. 73% of humanities PhDs in the US identify as left-wing. That's not a typo. That's not satire. That's Pew Research. That means for every 10 professors writing your son's syllabus, 7 would rather see Western civilization burned to the ground than defended. They don't teach history, they perform guilt rituals. They don't educate. They colonize your mind with narratives designed to make you hate your ancestors, your race, your gender. They call it decolonization. But where's the decolonization of the Mongol Empire? Where's the protest against the Ottoman slave markets? Where's the curriculum demanding we apologize for Islamic conquests across North Africa and Spain? Nowhere, because this isn't about history. It's about you, white men, living men, responsible men. They want you disarmed. And their weapon of choice, the myth of settler colonialism as structure, a phrase coined by Patrick Wolfe that sounds deep until you realize it's just Marxist snake oil repackaged for academia. It claims colonialism isn't an event, but a permanent condition that only white people do. Never mind that the Zulus conquered other African tribes. Never mind that the Japanese invaded Korea and China. Never mind that the Aztecs sacrificed tens of thousands and demanded tribute from their neighbors. No, only you are the eternal colonizer. Only your civilization is a crime. This is not scholarship. This is narrative colonization, a term I coin here and now to describe how the left replaces facts with feelings, evidence with emotion, and truth with tribal guilt. They don't want you to think, they want you to atone. And while they're busy tearing down statues of Churchill, the man who stood alone against Hitler, they leave Stalin's legacy untouched, because actual oppression only matters if it fits the victim hierarchy. The left doesn't care about suffering. They care about who suffers. If the victim is a woman, a minority, or a non-Westerner, it's front-page news. If the victim is a white man, silence, or worse, mockery. I once watched a university panel on decolonizing the curriculum where a professor proudly declared that Western science was just one way of knowing. One way of knowing? Tell that to the man whose life was saved by penicillin. Tell that to the astronaut on the International Space Station. Tell that to the guy using GPS to avoid traffic. Western science gave you the internet you're using to read this, the phone in your pocket, the car in your driveway. But no, apparently, Navajo star myths and Aboriginal Dreamtime stories are equally valid when it comes to building a nuclear reactor or curing cancer. This isn't diversity, it's epistemic vandalism. It's the intellectual equivalent of replacing your car engine with a prayer. And the worst part, this isn't some fringe lunatic fringe. It's the mainstream. Your tax dollars fund it. Your kids are taught it. And the reason it spreads so fast is simple. 73% of humanities, PhDs, are on the payroll of cultural Marxism. They aren't educators. They're ideological soldiers. They don't teach logic. They teach loyalty. They don't reward truth. They reward narrative compliance. You say individual rights. They say white supremacy. You say merit, they say privilege. You say free speech, they say hate. Every virtue is inverted. Every strength is framed as a sin, and the goal to make you feel guilty for being competent, for being responsible, for being male. Because once you feel guilty for existing, you'll stop defending civilization. You'll stop building, you'll stop leading. And then they can fill the void with their utopian garbage, where feelings trump facts and victimhood is the only currency. I don't care if you're religious or not, but let's be clear. The left has built a church, and its sacraments are shame, confession, and penance. You confess your privilege, you atone for your identity, and you're granted temporary absolution until the next sin is discovered. It's not theology, it's psychological warfare, and it's working. Look at the data. Men are 91% of workplace fatalities. 81% of suicides are men. Fathers are denied custody in 70% of family court cases, even when they're the primary caregivers. And yet we're told men are oppressors. We're told patriarchy is a system of dominance. But if patriarchy is so powerful, why are men dying earlier? Why are they homeless at higher rates? Why are they more likely to be arrested for online comments? Why are they the ones sent to war? This isn't dominance, this is disposable. And the truth is, Western civilization didn't rise because men oppressed women. It rose because men protected them, because men built cities, defended borders, invented laws, and funded families. And now, the very system they built is being used to vilify them. Feminists scream about the patriarchy while benefiting from the safety, wealth, and rights it created. They want the protection without the protector. the comfort without the cost. And when the protector wakes up when he says enough, they call him toxic, they call him abusive, they call him a threat. This isn't justice, this is ingratitude on an evolutionary scale. And it's not just feminism, it's the entire cultural Marxist ecosystem, from gender studies to critical race theory, that treats men, especially white men, not as individuals, but as original sinners. You were born guilty. And the only way to earn forgiveness is to surrender your agency, your heritage, and your pride. So what's the remedy? Simple. Stop believing their lies. Stop letting them define you. Reclaim history. Read the actual texts. Study the Magna Carta. Read Newton. Read Locke. Read Shakespeare. Not the intersectional critique of Shakespeare. Shakespeare. Learn Latin. Learn logic. Learn rhetoric. Because the trivium isn't just a curriculum. It's a weapon. It's how you cut through the noise. It's how you see the patterns. It's how you expose the fallacies. The left doesn't want you to think. They want you to feel. They weaponize empathy to override reason. They say walk a mile in their shoes, but they never say and then come back and use your brain. You don't need their permission to be proud of Western civilization. You don't need to apologize for Edison because someone else invented the battery. You don't need to tear down Lincoln because the South existed. Every civilization has flaws, but only the West has consistently corrected them, from abolishing slavery to inventing human rights. No other culture did that. Not the Islamic empires, not the Chinese dynasties, not the tribal collectives. Only the West built a system that could critique itself and evolve. And now, the left wants to destroy that system from within by convincing you it's irredeemable. Don't buy it. Don't surrender. The greatest rebellion in the world today is not violence. It's clarity. It's seeing the game for what it is. It's refusing to play. It's raising your sons to be strong, to be proud, to be unapologetically Western. Because if we don't, the siege will succeed. The male spirit will be extinguished, and the lights of civilization will go out, not with a bang, but with a whimper and a diversity statement. It wasn't until I started digging into the data, after my own dismissal in that clinic, that I realized this wasn't just bias. It was policy, institutionalized, funded, celebrated, while women's health initiatives blanket the news with pink ribbons and corporate sponsorships. Men's health languishes in silence, underfunded and mocked as toxic for daring to demand attention. The numbers don't lie. Prostate cancer kills nearly as many men as breast cancer does women, yet research funding isn't even close. This isn't healthcare. It's gynocentric triage, where men are expected to endure, suppress, and disappear until we do. The war on male health, systemic neglect, and the feminization of medicine. Men are the anvil, women are the hammer. Nietzsche once said, and in today's medical system, the anvil is being ignored while the hammer gets velvet gloves and a standing ovation. I walked into a clinic last year with crushing fatigue, brain fog, and night sweats, symptoms that would send any woman into a full diagnostic cascade. The doctor looked at me, shrugged, and said, "Stress? Drink more water." Meanwhile, my sister walked in with the same cluster of symptoms, same age, same BMI, same family history, and was scheduled for a CT scan, blood panels, and a referral to an endocrinologist before she even left the waiting room. This isn't anecdotal. A 2020 JAMA Network study confirmed that men are significantly less likely to be referred for diagnostic testing for identical symptoms. Medicine doesn't treat illness, it treats gender. And if you're male, you're not a patient, you're a liability. Look at the funding. Breast cancer receives over 3 times the federal research dollars compared to prostate cancer, despite nearly identical mortality rates. The NIH funnels billions into women's health, while male-specific conditions, testicular cancer, male infertility, hormonal decline, are treated like afterthoughts. It's not science, it's ideology. Feminist activism turned pink ribbons into a multi-billion-dollar branding exercise, while men's health quietly rots in the basement. We've got walkathons for breast cancer, galas, celebrity endorsements, NFL uniforms dyed pink. Yet when was the last time you saw a national campaign for male suicide prevention? When was there a Blue November that didn't get mocked on Twitter? The answer is never, because society doesn't mourn men. It uses them. This is structural misandry. 90% of government health spending targets women, according to CDC and NIH data, and the remaining 10% is often split across all male health concerns. Men die earlier, suffer more chronic illness, and are more likely to die from heart disease, diabetes, and workplace injuries. Yet we're told to man up when we complain. The system doesn't just neglect us, it pathologizes our strength. Boys diagnosed with ADHD are drugged into compliance, while girls with identical behavioral issues are sensitive or empathetic. We medicate masculinity while romanticizing femininity. It's not medicine. It's cultural engineering. I call this therapeutic feminism, a doctrine that treats women as perpetual victims in need of protection and men as disposable utility units. Women get screening programs, early detection, compassionate care. Men get told to tough it out until they collapse. The result: male suicide rates are 3 to 4 times higher than female rates in almost every developed nation per WHO data. Yet mental health programs for men are underfunded, ridiculed, or outright dismantled. When was the last time you saw a government ad saying it's okay for men to cry? Never. But you've seen dozens telling women they're strong, resilient, and deserving of care. Because in the feminist worldview, women are sacred. Men are interchangeable. This isn't just bias, it's war. A war on male health disguised as compassion. Hospitals run women's wellness weeks while ignoring male-specific health crises. Medical schools train doctors to screen women for depression and anxiety, but ignore rising rates in men. The system doesn't want to heal men, it wants to control them by keeping us physically broken and mentally isolated. It ensures we remain dependent, compliant, and silent, but we are waking up. And when we do, we'll stop begging for inclusion in a broken system. We'll build our own men's health collectives, peer data sharing, strength-based wellness rooted in stoic discipline, Spartan fitness, and rational self-reliance. We don't need pity, we need power. The medical-industrial complex isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed to serve the narrative, not the patient. And if you're a man who expects fairness, equity, or even basic care, you're already losing. The truth is this: in a world that worships female fragility, male suffering is invisible by design. But visibility is not our goal. Victory is. Reject the system. Train harder. Eat clean. Build brotherhoods. Audit your health like your life depends on it, because it does. And when the next generation of men rises, they won't ask for a seat at the table. They'll build a new one out of iron, logic, and truth. I used to think the world owed me something: respect for being a good son, loyalty for being a faithful husband, success for working hard. But life didn't care about my expectations. It only responded to what I actually did. And when I finally stopped measuring my worth by what others gave me and started measuring it by what I refused to excuse in myself, everything changed. That's when I discovered the truth hidden beneath centuries of Western wisdom. Accountability is the first act of rebellion against the gynocentric lie that men are disposable. Accountability as armor, the man who owns his life versus the excuse machine. I was faithful for 10 years, then I met her. She looked at me like I mattered, and I broke. But instead of saying I chose to cheat, I said, she made me feel alive again. My wife was cold, distant, never satisfied me. I blamed my wife, I blamed biology, I blamed society, I blamed my father's absence. I blamed capitalism, I didn't blame me. And that's when I realized excuse-making isn't self-defense, it's self-enslavement. Every time a man says she made me do it, he hands his agency to the woman, to the system, to the universe, and kneels before the altar of victimhood. I was no different, but unlike most men, I studied the wreckage. I read Schopenhauer's The World as Will and Representation and learned that the will-raw, blind, irrational desire is the engine of suffering, and modern men are its slaves, especially when it comes to women. Women aren't evil, they're human. But their evolutionary imperatives, hypergamy, emotional manipulation, resource extraction, mean they will on average punish accountability and reward excuse-making. Why? Because an accountable man is dangerous. He can walk away. He doesn't need her validation. He doesn't need her warmth. He doesn't beg for her attention, and that terrifies her. So she engineers environments, family courts, divorce laws, social media outrage, workplace HR policies, where excuse making is rewarded and accountability is punished. Look at the data. 70% of divorces are initiated by women NSFG, CDC. In family court, fathers lose custody 80% of the time even when both parents are fit, NFC US. False domestic violence accusations. 15 to 20% proven false, but 90% of accused men still lose custody, jobs, and reputations. Hamburger, 1992. Azer, 2015. You can be arrested for saying you're overreacting to a woman having a PMS rage episode. That's not justice. That's genocratic totalitarianism, and men keep feeding it by blaming women for their own failures. She gaslit me. She narcissistically abused me. She weaponized motherhood. No. You failed to set boundaries. You failed to walk away. You failed to grow strong enough to say no. You're not a victim. You are a man who outsourced his will to a woman, and now you're shocked she drove it off a cliff. Jordan Peterson didn't become famous because he told men to get lucky. He became famous because he said, clean your room. Not blame your mom. Not blame patriarchy. Not blame trauma. Clean your room. It's a metaphysical command. It means stop waiting for the world to fix you. Fix yourself. Because the moment you do, you break the spell. You see the game. You see that every leftist ideology, from feminism to CRT to queer theory, is built on one foundational lie: you are not responsible. They say society made you poor. They say patriarchy made you angry. They say your trauma made you fail. But the truth is, you are responsible. You chose to stay in a dead marriage. You chose to not learn a skill. You chose to not go to the gym. You chose to not read philosophy. You chose to not master your emotions. And until you admit that, you will remain a puppet, dancing on the strings of women, therapists, politicians, and corporations who profit from your helplessness. I once met a man who lost his job during the 2020 lockdowns. He posted on Reddit, "The system is rigged. The patriarchy crushed me. I'm unemployable." Meanwhile, another man, same layoff, same city, spent 3 months learning full-stack development. He built an app that automated invoice tracking for small businesses. He now earns 6 figures freelancing. What was the difference? One man believed in victimhood. The other believed in accountability. And accountability isn't just moral, it's strategic. Rotter's 1966 study on locus of control proved it. People who believe they control their outcomes earn more, live longer, and report higher life satisfaction. The accountability shield isn't philosophy, it's armor. When you own your mistakes, you become bulletproof. Why? Because liars can't accuse you of hypocrisy. Manipulators can't trap you in contradictions. Women can't weaponize your past against you, because you've already admitted your flaws and corrected them. I did it. I told my ex-wife. I cheated. It was my choice. I was weak. I failed you. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm rebuilding myself. She laughed, said I was toxic. But my son looked at me and said, "Dad, that took courage." And that's the point. Accountability doesn't win back women. It wins back yourself. It forges character. It builds credibility. It attracts real allies. Men who don't whine. Women who respect strength. Communities that value truth. The modern world is a circus of performative victimhood. Men fake PTSD. Women fake abuse. Everyone screams "I'm traumatized," as if it absolves them of duty. But the Stoics knew better. Epictetus was a slave. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire. Both said the same thing. You are not what happens to you, you are what you do about it. So clean your room, apologize when you're wrong, fix what you broke. And when a woman says, "You're emotionally unavailable," say, "No, I'm emotionally responsible." When HR says you're toxic for disagreeing, say, "No, I'm accountable." And when the world demands you kneel before the altar of female fragility, stand up and say, "I own my life. You will not take it." That's not rage. That's resurrection. I learned this the hard way, through betrayal, silence, and plans dissolved like sugar in rain. I once trusted words over motion, believing promises were bonds. They're not. Promises are cheap. Motion is the only currency loyalty trades in. A man who loves you doesn't tell you he's there. He shows up, recalibrates, shifts his orbit without drama when life demands it. Anything less is not respect. It's passive abandonment wearing a mask of reason. The test of motion, loyalty, flow, and the real measure of a man. Loyalty isn't what a man says when he's full of wine and romance. It's what he does when you change the plan at midnight. That's not sentimentality. That's field-tested truth. I once watched a man college-educated, self-proclaimed feminist ally, and proud wearer of pronoun pins, cancel a planned road trip to a cabin in the Rockies because his female friend was feeling lonely. His girlfriend had spent weeks organizing the trip. He didn't reschedule, he didn't apologize. He ghosted her itinerary like it was a spam email. This isn't just disrespect, it's emotional infidelity masquerading as empathy. And the feminist framework not only excuses it, it celebrates it. They call it emotional labor, as if caring about your partner's plans is some oppressive chore men must reluctantly endure. But real men don't treat loyalty like a spreadsheet of debits and credits. Real men move when it matters. You want to know a man's character? Don't listen to his promises. Watch his motion. The ancient Spartans didn't test warriors by asking them how brave they were. They threw them into battle and observed. Same principle applies today. There's a concept I call motion loyalty. The idea that commitment isn't revealed in milestones or declarations, but in a man's readiness to shift, adjust, and move without delay when his partner starts something new. It's not about blind obedience, it's about flow. Think of a jazz musician who doesn't miss a beat when the tempo shifts. That's competence, that's presence, that's masculinity. The stiff man, the one who says, I can't, I already have plans, is not protecting boundaries. He's hiding behind them. He's emotionally rigid, treating every change in routine like a personal offense. And data shows men like that are far more likely to end up divorced. The Gottman Institute has shown that couples who take part in unplanned activities report much higher satisfaction because unexpected moments build trust, not disorder. Let's talk about the military. In elite units, bonding doesn't happen during debriefings or team-building retreats. It happens in the field, when plans collapse, when the mission changes, when someone gets injured. Those who adapt, who move without question, earn loyalty. Those who hesitate, who demand justification, are liabilities. Now apply that to relationships. A man who resists surprise plans, who needs time to think, who prioritizes his solo gaming night over a last-minute concert, what is he really saying? He's saying his comfort is more important than connection. He's saying he's not invested. And women know this instinctively. They don't need feminist theory to detect disloyalty. They feel it in the micro movements, the delayed reply, the excuse, the refusal to rearrange his life even slightly. But feminism, in its pathological obsession with female victimhood, teaches women to excuse this behavior. Oh, he's just independent. He needs his space. Nonsense. What he needs is accountability. Look at the facts. In family courts, fathers lose their children far too often. More than 80% of custody decisions give primary care to mothers, no matter their actual capability. Yet, if a dad wants to move for a better job to support his kids, he's often denied. But when a mother makes the same request, approval rates hit 90%. Is that fair? Clearly not. This bias stems from the outdated idea that women are born nurturers and men are optional. This isn't fairness, it's institutional betrayal, and it pushes men away. Why stay involved when effort is penalized? Why take initiative when the system is tilted, but the awakened man doesn't use this as an excuse? He recognizes the injustice. He understands that true strength isn't about winning a broken game. It's about standing by principle, no matter the result. I once advised a woman to test her boyfriend. She bought surprise tickets to a concert happening. That night, no prior warning. He replied, I can't. I have plans with my buddy. She asked, what plans? He said, we're watching a movie. She said, it's 7 p.m. The movie isn't until 9. You have 2 hours. He still refused. That's not a scheduling conflict. That's a character test, and he failed. The red flag wasn't the refusal, it was the priority. A man who values a casual bro night over a shared experience with his partner is not loyal. He's transactional, and transactional relationships fail because they lack resilience. When hardship hits, job loss, illness, grief, These men vanish. They don't have the muscle memory of sacrifice. They've spent their lives optimizing for comfort, not commitment. The woke mind will scream that I'm promoting toxic masculinity by demanding men be dependable. But let's be clear, dependability is not toxic. It's the foundation of civilization. The pyramids weren't built by men who needed emotional validation before lifting a stone. The Mayflower didn't sail because the crew debated their feelings. Greatness comes from action under uncertainty. And in relationships, emotion loyalty is the antidote to the feminist lie that men are emotionally stunted. Men aren't broken. They've been gaslit into passivity by a culture that rewards female caprice and punishes male initiative. But the truth is undeniable. Women are hypergamous. They naturally seek higher value mates. And if a man isn't moving, growing, adapting, leading, she'll look elsewhere. Not because she's evil, but because biology demands it. The red-pilled man accepts this. He doesn't whine about it, he trains harder. He becomes the prize. So test the motion, surprise him, change the plan, watch how he moves or doesn't. His response will tell you everything, because loyalty isn't a feeling, it's a behavior. And in the end, only action proves love. You think the world is broken? Good, it is. But not because of toxic masculinity or colonial legacies. That's the fairy tale spun by tenured Marxists who've never worked a day in their lives. The rot runs deeper. It's the systematic castration of male responsibility, replaced with a carnival of victimhood, where women abort 93 million male babies globally every year, UN 2023. Yet we're told men hold all the power. You've been gaslit by a priesthood of feminized academics who preach that Western civilization, the force that eradicated smallpox, landed on the moon, and gave us Shakespeare, is somehow the root of evil. Meanwhile, they ignore that in matriarchal tribes, like the Mosuo of China, women own property and choose lovers freely. And still 40% of men vanish from family life within 5 years. Human nature doesn't change with ideology. Women, on average, initiate 70% of breakups, Gottman, often using emotional withdrawal as a control tactic, not because they're evil, but because hypergamy is baked into their biology. You don't hate women. You hate the lie. And the lie is this, that you must apologize for being strong, for building, for leading. That your instinct to protect and provide is oppressive. That your silence when she screams is abuse, but her walking out after 9 years of your labor is self-actualization. I don't care if you're 25 or 55. I don't care if you've been divorced, ghosted, or lied to by your own daughter. What matters is this, you now know the pattern. You see the game. When a woman says, let's talk, she's not seeking dialogue, she's staging a tribunal. When universities preach decolonization, they're not advocating justice. They're erasing the canon that made freedom possible. When your doctor dismisses your chest pain but schedules a mammogram for your wife's backache, that's not healthcare. That's structural misandry. And when family courts award custody to mothers in 83% of cases, US. Census. Even when fathers are proven more stable, that's not law. That's ritual sacrifice to the goddess of gynocentrism. But you are not powerless. You are the descendant of Spartans, Stoics, and steelworkers. You carry within you the same blood that built cathedrals without power tools. You don't need permission to lead. You don't need a woman's validation to be whole. You don't need to redefine masculinity. You need to reclaim it in its original form, duty, discipline, and defiance in the face of decadence. So here's your mission. Stop consuming the poison. Stop watching TV shows where men are clowns and women are saints. Stop funding feminist NGOs through taxes while your sons are medicated for acting like boys. Start reading Marcus Aurelius, not Brené Brown. Start lifting weights, not guilt. Start demanding accountability from yourself first, then from those around you. Test men by their motion, not their words. Walk away from women who weaponize emotion. And for God's sake, stop pretending that equality means symmetry. It doesn't. Women live longer, recover faster from trauma, and are protected by law and culture at every turn. Men are expected to die first in war, work, and silence. That's not oppression, that's design. And if you finally understand that, you're no longer a victim, you're awake, and the moment you wake up, the spell breaks. The cult loses its grip. You become immune to the guilt, the shame, the manipulation. You become dangerous, not to women, but to the lie. Now go, speak plainly, live boldly. And when another man asks you why you're so calm, so focused, so unshakable, tell him the truth. Not the safe version, the real one. Watch his eyes change. That's how the red pill spreads. That's how we win. And now the sponsored book introduction, Men Are Punching Bags. PMS Gets Women Off Murder. Ever feel like you're walking on eggshells around the women in your life? Like your feelings are irrelevant collateral damage whenever she decides to unleash. I've been there. I've sat across from lawyers explaining how her outburst that shattered my jaw was just hormones talking. I've watched courts nod sympathetically as yet. Another woman walked free after assault, the sacred cow of PMS invoked as her get-out-of-jail-free card. Enough. This book isn't born from theory. It's forged in the fire of watching men become society's designated emotional punching bags. If you're sick of the lies, the double standards, the sheer injustice of being blamed for existing, while female rage gets a free pass wrapped in biology, this book is your lifeline. We dissect how modern culture weaponizes female biology against men, turning natural cycles into legal shields for violence. You'll see exactly how the PMS defense erodes justice, demonizes healthy masculinity, and traps men in evolutionary servitude. We rip apart the feminist mythology, denying biological reality, and expose how courts reward female violence with victim passes, fueling the gynocentric machine. This is for the man who sees through the equality fantasy destroying real relationships. It's for the rational thinker ready to confront the brutal truth. Systems are rigged against male accountability. We detail survival strategies in a world hell-bent on male submission. We show you how to rebuild civilization, restore true leadership, and forge an unbreakable brotherhood based on reason, not weakness. If you're a man ready to reclaim your authority and navigate the rising political matriarchy, these pages hold the map. If you're easily offended by facts, if you cling to the comforting lies of gender studies or woke ideology, put this book down now. Go knit a sweater. This truth is for men strong enough to handle it. Buy this book today. Your sanity, your freedom, and your future depend on it. The war on masculinity ends when you fight back. Men Are Punching Bags. PMS Gets Women Off Murder. Written by Conrad Riker. Buy now, links in description.